The massive control room of the Zarkonian flagship buzzed with activity. Alien officers, their scaled skin glowing under the blue lights, moved between stations with practiced efficiency. At the center of it all stood Supreme Commander Vexlor, his 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the main view screen. "Report," he barked, his voice echoing through the chamber. A young officer approached, datapad in hand. "Supreme Commander, our long-range scanners have detected a small fleet entering the outer reaches of the Gliese system." Vexlor's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a cluster of tiny dots moving slowly through space. Vexlor leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Magnify," he commanded. As the image zoomed in, the dots resolved into ships, if you could call them that. They were laughably small compared to the mighty Zarkonian vessels, looking more like escape pods than proper warships. A ripple of laughter spread through the control room. Even Vexlor couldn't suppress a chuckle. What manner of fools would dare enter our territory with such pathetic craft? He mused aloud. "Unknown. Supreme Commander," the young officer replied. "The ships don't match any known designs in our database. They appear to be new." Vexlor's laughter died away, replaced by a predatory grin. "New, you say? How interesting. It seems we have some upstart species thinking they can play in the big leagues." He turned to his second-in-command. "Prepare a welcoming committee. Let's show these newcomers what real power looks like." As orders were relayed and ships began to move into position, excited chatter filled the room. It had been ages since the Zarkonians had encountered a new species, let alone one foolish enough to enter their space so boldly. This promised to be an entertaining diversion. "Supreme Commander," another officer called out, "we're receiving some odd energy readings from the alien fleet." Vexlor waved a dismissive hand. "Probably some primitive propulsion system. Nothing to concern ourselves with." But as the Zarkonian ships drew closer to the newcomers, something strange began to happen. The tiny fleet started to move with surprising speed and agility, effortlessly evading the lumbering Zarkonian cruisers. Vexlor's amusement turned to confusion, then frustration. "What's going on?" he demanded. "Why can't we catch them?" The control room erupted into chaos as officers scrambled to make sense of the situation. Reports flooded in from perplexed ship captains, all saying the same thing. The little ships were impossibly fast and maneuverable. "Supreme Commander," the young officer from before approached again, his voice trembling slightly. "We've managed to intercept some communications from the alien fleet. They're calling themselves humans." Vexlor's eyes widened. "Humans? I've never heard of such a species." As if in response to his words, the main view screen flickered again. This time, it showed a clear image of one of the small ships. Its sleek design was unlike anything the Zarkonians had ever seen. But what truly shocked them was the writing visible on the hull. USDFINT, Earth. The control room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just some random new species stumbling into the galactic stage. This was a carefully planned first contact, executed with technology that seemed to surpass even the mighty Zarkonian Empire. Vexlor's earlier mockery now felt hollow. He realized with growing dread that they might have severely underestimated these humans. The tiny fleet that had seemed so laughable mere moments ago now loomed as a potential threat. "All ships, hold position," Vexlor ordered, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "Let's reconsider our approach." As the Zarkonian fleet came to a halt, the human ships continued their graceful dance through space. It was clear that the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted, and no one was laughing anymore. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the course of galactic history. The humans had arrived, and the Zarkonians were about to learn a valuable lesson. Never judge a species by the size of their ships. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, her dark eyes fixed on the massive alien ships that hung in space before them. Despite the tense situation, a small smile played on her lips. The plan was working perfectly. "Status report," she called out, her voice calm and steady. Lieutenant Rodriguez, her second in command, responded quickly. "All systems nominal, Captain. The Zarkonian fleet has stopped advancing." "They seem confused." Chen nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "Good. Let's keep them guessing." "Comms, any response to our hails yet?" "Negative, Captain," came the reply. "They're maintaining radio silence." The captain's smile widened. "Well then, let's give them something to think about." "Tactical. Initiate maneuver Omega-3." At her command, the small fleet of Earth ships began to move in perfect synchronization. To an outside observer, it would have looked like an intricate dance, with the tiny human vessels weaving between the lumbering Zarkonian ships with impossible speed and precision. On board the Defiant, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. Unlike the chaotic alien command center, the human bridge was a model of calm professionalism. Each officer knew their role, trained for years for this very moment. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up, "I'm detecting energy buildups in several of the alien vessels. I think they might be preparing to fire." Chen's expression hardened. "Defensive protocols. All ships. Activate ECM suites." As the words left her mouth, the space around the human fleet shimmered slightly. The advanced electronic countermeasure systems, one of Earth's most closely guarded secrets, came to life. These devices could bend light and other forms of energy, making the ships nearly impossible to target accurately. The Zarkonian vessels opened fire, their massive energy weapons lighting up the darkness of space, but their shots went wide, passing harmlessly through the empty void where the human ships had been moments before. "Nice try," Chen muttered under her breath. Then, louder, tactical, "Prepare for a warning shot. Let's show them what we can do." A young ensign's fingers danced across his console. "Target locked, Captain. Ready on your command." Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. Fire. A beam of concentrated energy lanced out from the Defiant, so focused and precise that it looked almost like a solid object. It struck the lead Zarkonian ship, slicing through its shields like they weren't even there, and leaving a smoking gash in its hull. The bridge erupted in cheers, quickly silenced by a raised hand from the captain. "Stay focused, people. This isn't over yet." Back on the Zarkonian flagship, Supreme Commander Vexlor stared at the damage report in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "Our shields, they're the strongest in the known galaxy. How could they?" His musings were interrupted by a frantic officer. "Supreme Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." Vexlor straightened, trying to regain his composure. "Put it through," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the face of Captain Sarah Chen. Her expression was stern but not unkind as she addressed the alien commander. "Greetings, Supreme Commander Vexlor of the Zarkonian Empire. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations. However, we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. The shot we fired was a demonstration, not an attack. We hope it conveyed our capabilities clearly." Vexlor's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this information. These humans, with their tiny ships and advanced technology, had managed to completely upend his understanding of the galaxy in a matter of minutes. "I understand," he replied, his voice lacking its earlier arrogance. "Perhaps we should discuss terms." Chen nodded, a hint of warmth entering her expression. "We would welcome that, Supreme Commander. Shall we arrange a meeting?" As the two leaders began to hash out the details of their first official contact, the crews of both fleets watched in amazement. The humans had achieved the impossible. They had forced one of the galaxy's most powerful empires to the negotiating table without firing a single shot in anger. The tiny Terran armada hung in space, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. They had been mocked and underestimated, but in the end, they had proven that sometimes the smallest ships can cast the largest shadows. The meeting room on the neutral space station was tense. On one side of the large oval table sat Captain Sarah Chen and her small team of human diplomats. On the other, Supreme Commander Vexlor loomed over his Arconian advisors, his four eyes darting suspiciously between the humans. "Let us begin," Chen said, her voice calm and professional. "We're here to establish peaceful relations between our peoples." Vexlor's mouth twisted into what might have been a sneer. "Peace? You invade our territory with your tiny ships, and now you speak of peace." Chen's eyebrow raised slightly. "Invade? We were exploring uncharted space. We had no idea this system was claimed by anyone. Ignorance is no excuse." Vexlor's voice boomed, making his advisors flinch. "The Zarkonian Empire has ruled this sector for millennia. Your presence here is an insult." One of the human diplomats, Dr. Anaya Patel, leaned forward. "Supreme Commander, surely we can find common ground. Our cultures may be different, but we believe that through dialogue—" "Silence," Vexlor interrupted. "I will not be lectured by primitives who have barely left their home system." Chen's eyes narrowed, but her voice remained level. "With all due respect, Supreme Commander, our level of technology suggests we're far from primitive. We came here to talk, not to fight. But make no mistake, we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary." The room grew quiet. The humans exchanged worried glances, while the Zarkonians seemed to puff up with indignation. Vexlor leaned across the table, his massive frame casting a shadow over the humans. "Is that a threat, little captain?" "Not at all," Chen replied, unflinching. "It's simply a statement of fact. We hope it won't come to that." For a moment, it seemed like tensions might ease, but then one of Vexlor's advisors whispered something in his ear, and his expression darkened further. "You dare to deceive us," he growled. "Our long-range scans show no sign of a home fleet, no massive shipyards or defense systems. You came here with your handful of ships, thinking to bluff your way into galactic politics." Chen's face remained impassive, but inwardly she cursed. The Zarkonian scans must have penetrated deeper into human space than they'd anticipated. Their bluff was being called. "Supreme Commander," she began, "our military doctrine is different from yours. We value quality over quantity, efficiency over size. Surely our earlier demonstration was a trick." Vexlor shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "Some sort of illusion or deception. No weapons could penetrate our shields so easily. You are liars and cowards." The human team tensed, hands inching towards concealed weapons. The Zarkonians, too, seemed ready for violence. Dr. Patel tried one last time for peace. "Please, let's not resort to—" But her words were cut off as Vexlor suddenly lunged across the table, his massive hand reaching for Captain Chen's throat. In a flash, Chen ducked and rolled, years of training kicking in. The human security detail sprang into action, placing themselves between their captain and the enraged alien. Chaos erupted in the meeting room. Furniture was overturned, shouts and the sound of energy weapons filled the air. Through it all, Chen's voice cut through the din. "Fall back, back to the ships." The human team fought their way to the exit, covering each other with precise, coordinated movements that contrasted sharply with the Zarkonians' brute force approach. As they reached their shuttle, Chen took one last look at the scene of destruction behind them. Vexlor stood amid the chaos, his eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over, humans," he roared. "You'll regret the day you ever entered our space." The shuttle doors slammed shut, and they blasted off towards the Defiant. As they flew, Chen's mind raced. The diplomatic approach had failed spectacularly. Now they were heading towards a conflict that could determine the fate of humanity in the galaxy. "Send word to Earth," she ordered grimly. Tell them that first contact has gone wrong. Very wrong. And we're going to need every advantage we can get." As the tiny human fleet prepared for the coming storm, the vastness of space seemed to grow colder. The stage was set for a battle that would echo across the stars. David versus Goliath on a galactic scale. The vastness of space erupted into chaos as the Zarkonian fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams and swarms of missiles streaked across the darkness, all aimed at the tiny human ships that darted between them like minnows evading sharks. On the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair, her face a mask of determination. Evasive maneuvers, pattern Delta. All ships, activate point defense systems. The human fleet moved as one, their formation shifting and reforming with impossible grace. Beams that should have vaporized them instead passed harmlessly through empty space. Missiles that managed to get close were picked off by precise laser fire, exploding in brilliant flashes that illuminated the battlefield. Supreme Commander Vexlor watched from his flagship, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," he roared. "How are they avoiding our attacks? Fire everything we have." The Zarkonian ships unleashed their full arsenal, filling space with so much weaponry that it seemed there was nowhere left for the humans to hide. Yet somehow the Earth fleet continued to evade, slipping through gaps that shouldn't have existed. "Now," Chen's voice cut through the tension on the Defiance bridge. "Execute Operation Slingshot." In perfect synchronization, the human ships suddenly changed direction. They flew straight towards the largest Zarkonian vessels, seeming to court destruction. Vexlor's laughter boomed through his command center. "At last, they've lost their minds in fear." But as the distance closed, something strange happened. The human ships began to glow, surrounded by a shimmering field of energy. They weaved between the massive alien ships, and wherever they passed, Zarkonian systems began to fail. "What's happening?" Vexlor demanded, panic creeping into his voice. "Report." His officers scrambled to respond. "It's some kind of energy field, Supreme Commander. It's shutting down our systems. Weapons, shields, engines, everything it touches goes dark." Chen allowed herself a small smile. The gamble had paid off. Earth's scientists had theorized that the Zarkonians' powerful energy weapons must require equally powerful control systems. The human ships were now projecting localized EMP fields, tailor-made to exploit weaknesses in alien technology. "All ships, attack pattern Omega," Chen ordered calmly. "Target their primary weapon systems and engines. Disable, don't destroy." The Earth fleet sprang into action. Precision strikes from their own, much smaller weapons found their marks with unerring accuracy. Zarkonian ships, suddenly vulnerable without their shields, were crippled one by one. On his flagship, Vexlor watched in horror as his mighty armada was systematically dismantled by ships he had once mocked as insignificant. "This can't be happening," he muttered. "We are the Zarkonian Empire. We cannot be defeated by humans," his second-in-command finished grimly. "Supreme Commander, we must retreat. We're taking heavy losses, and we can't stop them." Vexlor's pride warred with his survival instinct. But as another of his ships went dark, weapons and engines dead in space, he made his decision. "All ships, fall back. Retreat to the nearest fortified system." As the Zarkonian fleet began to turn, limping away from the battlefield, Captain Chen stood on her bridge, watching them go. The human crews cheered around her, celebrating their improbable victory. But Chen knew this was only the beginning. "Send a message to the Zarkonian flagship," she ordered. "Tell them we're still open to peaceful negotiations, if they're willing to talk as equals." As the message was sent, Chen turned to look at her crew. Their faces showed a mix of exhaustion, exhilaration, and determination. They had faced an overwhelming force and emerged victorious, not through brute strength, but through ingenuity, teamwork, and the clever application of their technology. "Well done, everyone," Chen said, allowing pride to color her voice. "We've won the battle. Now comes the hard part, winning the peace." as the stars continued their eternal dance around them. The tiny human fleet stood tall among the crippled giants of the Zarkonian armada. David had defeated Goliath, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The aftermath of the battle hung in space like a frozen tableau. Disabled Zarkonian ships drifted silently, their once mighty weapons now dark and lifeless. In contrast, the small human fleet moved with purpose, their engines glowing softly against the starry backdrop. On board the U.S. Defiant, Captain Sarah Chen studied the tactical display. Her brown eyes narrowed as she assessed the situation. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Rodriguez responded promptly. "All human ships report minimal damage, Captain. Our EMP tactics were highly effective." However, he paused, his face grim. "The Zarkonians have called for reinforcements. Long-range sensors detect a massive fleet heading our way." Chen nodded, her mind racing. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. "How long until they arrive?" "Approximately 6 hours, Captain." A hush fell over the bridge. 6 hours wasn't much time to prepare for another fight, especially against an enemy that would now be wary of their tricks. Suddenly, a young ensign spoke up. "Captain, I have an idea." All eyes turned to her. "What if we could turn their own ships against them?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "Explain, Ensign Zhang." Zhang stood straighter, her voice gaining confidence. "Our EMP weapons shut down their systems, right? Well, what if we could restart those systems? Under our control." A murmur of excitement rippled through the bridge. Chen felt a smile tugging at her lips. "Interesting. Lieutenant Rodriguez, assemble a team. You have 2 hours to make this work." As Rodriguez and Zhang hurried off, Chen turned her attention to the communications officer. "Any response from the Zarkonians to our peace offer?" The officer shook his head. "Nothing official, Captain. But we're picking up a lot of chatter. They seem confused, scared even." Chen nodded. It was time to press their advantage. "Open a channel to Supreme Commander Vexler's ship." Moments later, Vexler's face appeared on the main screen. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by a mixture of anger and fear. "What do you want, human?" he snarled. Chen met his gaze calmly. "I want to give you one last chance to end this peacefully, Supreme Commander. Your reinforcements won't change the outcome. They'll only lead to more unnecessary losses." Vexler's eyes narrowed. "You lie. Our main fleet will crush your pathetic ships." "Will they?" Chen's voice was soft but firm. "Look around you, Commander. Your mighty ships were defeated by a force you considered insignificant. Do you really want to risk the rest of your fleet?" Uncertainty flickered across Vexler's alien features, but before he could respond, alarms blared on both ships. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. "We've done it. We have control of the Zarkonian ship systems." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Well done, Lieutenant." She turned back to the screen, where Vexler was shouting orders in panic. "It seems the tide has turned again. Supreme Commander, your disabled ships are now under our control. Still think we're bluffing?" As if to prove her point, the captured Zarkonian vessels began to move, their weapons powering up, but now aimed at their own fleet. Vexler's face drained of color. This is impossible." "Not impossible," Chen corrected. "Just highly improbable. Much like a tiny human fleet defeating the mighty Zarkonian Empire." Her voice hardened. "Now, shall we discuss terms of surrender, or do you need another demonstration?" The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Vexler slumped in his chair. "Very well, human. You win. What are your terms?" As Chen began to outline the conditions for peace, the mood on the Defiance Bridge shifted from tense anticipation to cautious optimism. They had done the impossible, not just winning a battle, but potentially ending a war before it could truly begin. Hours later, as the human and Zarkonian leaders signed a preliminary peace agreement, Chen couldn't help but reflect on the irony. The fleet that had been mocked for its size had changed the course of galactic history. Humanity had arrived on the cosmic stage, and the universe would never be the same. The grand hall of the Zarkonian flagship buzzed with tension. On one side stood the towering figures of the Zarkonian High Command, their scaled skin reflecting the dim light. On the other, the much smaller human delegation, led by Captain Sarah Chen, stood tall and unafraid. Supreme Commander Vexilor, once proud and arrogant, now looked deflated as he addressed his officers. "It is with great difficulty that I must announce our surrender to the humans." A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the Zarkonian ranks. One general stepped forward, his voice heavy with disbelief. "Surrender? To these tiny creatures? Surely you jest, Supreme Commander." Vexilor's four eyes blinked slowly. "I assure you, I do not. These tiny creatures have bested us at every turn. Their technology, their tactics, they are beyond anything we have encountered." As if to emphasize his point, a holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room. It showed the recent battle, the small human ships dancing between the massive Zarkonian vessels, disabling them with apparent ease. Captain Chen stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We didn't come here seeking conflict, but we were prepared for it. Now we offer you peace and the chance to learn from each other." The Zarkonian general sneered. "Learn? From you? What could we possibly?" His words were cut short as the hologram shifted, showing detailed schematics of human technology. Quantum computers, advanced AI systems, and energy manipulation devices far beyond Zarkonian understanding filled the display. "By the stars," whispered one Zarkonian scientist, his eyes wide with wonder. "How is this possible? Your species is so young." Chen smiled. "We had to evolve quickly. Earth isn't the most forgiving planet, and we've had our share of conflicts. It taught us to innovate, to think creatively." Vexilor studied the humans with new eyes. "You said before that you value quality over quantity. I see now that was not mere boasting." As the revelation sank in, the atmosphere in the room began to shift. The Zarkonians' initial hostility gave way to a reluctant respect, and in some cases, outright awe. One of the human diplomats, Dr. Anaya Patel, stepped forward. "We propose a treaty, not just of peace, but of cultural and technological exchange. We have much to offer each other." The Zarkonians huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. Finally, Vexilor turned back to the humans. "We accept your proposal. The Zarkonian Empire will retreat from this sector as a show of good faith." A cheer went up from the human delegation, quickly stifled out of respect for the solemnity of the moment. Chen nodded, a small smile on her face. "A wise decision, Supreme Commander. We look forward to a new era of cooperation." As the two groups began to hash out the details of their agreement, Chen pulled her team aside. "We did it," she said softly. "But our work is just beginning." Lieutenant Rodriguez grinned. "Who would have thought our tiny fleet would end up changing the galaxy?" "Indeed," Chen replied. "But with great power comes great responsibility. We must be careful how we proceed." As if on cue, a junior officer rushed up to Chen, his face pale. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from all over the sector. Word of our victory is spreading fast. Other species, they're calling for alliances, trade agreements, even protection." Chen's expression grew serious. Humanity had set out to explore the stars, and in doing so, had unwittingly become a major galactic power overnight. The implications were staggering. "Well," she said, straightening her uniform, "it seems the real challenge is just beginning. Humanity is now on the galactic stage, whether we're ready or not." As the humans and Zarkonians continued their negotiations, news of the incredible upset spread across the stars like wildfire. The galaxy watched and waited, wondering what this young, innovative species would do next. The era of human isolation was over. The age of human galactic influence had begun. 1 year had passed since the fateful encounter between humanity and the Zarkonian Empire. The galaxy was a changed place, humming with excitement and possibility. On the newly constructed Harmony Station, a massive space habitat at the crossroads of several species territories, Captain Sarah Chen stood before a large window. She watched as ships of all shapes and sizes docked and departed, a testament to the new era of cooperation. "Captain," a voice called. Chen turned to see Dr. Anaya Patel approaching, a tablet in hand. "The Galactic Council is ready to begin." Chen nodded, straightening her new uniform, no longer just a captain, but Earth's primary representative to the stars. "Let's not keep them waiting," she said with a smile. They entered a grand chamber where representatives from a dozen species sat around a circular table. Some were familiar, the now humbled Zarkonians, their scales gleaming under the lights. Others were new allies, drawn by tales of human ingenuity and fairness. As Chen took her seat, a holographic display flickered to life in the center of the table. It showed a map of known space, with Earth marked prominently despite its relative insignificance just a year ago. The Arcturian representative, a being of pure energy contained in a specialized suit, spoke first. "Esteemed colleagues, we gather today to discuss the remarkable changes brought about by our human friends." Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Even the Zarkonian delegate, none other than former Supreme Commander Vexlor, nodded grudgingly. "In just 1 year," the Arcturian continued, "humans have shared technologies that have revolutionized our societies. Their quantum entanglement communication alone has brought our worlds closer than ever before." A Volcran, a species resembling sentient crystals, chimed in. "And let us not forget their medical advancements. Their nanobots have cured diseases we thought incurable." Chen listened, a mix of pride and humility washing over her. Humanity had indeed changed the galaxy, but not through conquest or domination. Instead, they had shared their knowledge, fostered cooperation, and worked tirelessly to lift all species together. Vexlor spoke next, his voice carrying a newfound respect. "We Zarkonians once mocked the humans for their small fleet. Now we thank the stars they chose to use their power wisely. Their philosophy of a rising tide lifts all boats has proven true on a galactic scale." As the meeting progressed, Chen marveled at how far they had come. Earth, once an isolated planet on the fringes of the galaxy, was now a central hub of innovation and diplomacy. Human ships, no longer mocked for their size, were prized for their advanced technology and skilled crews. But challenges remained. Some species viewed humanity's rapid rise with suspicion. Others sought to exploit human technology for their own gain. And there were still vast, unexplored regions of space that could hold new wonders or new threats. As the council meeting drew to a close, Chen stood to address the gathered representatives. "Friends, allies, fellow explorers of the cosmos," she began, her voice clear and strong. "A year ago, humanity was unknown to you. We were seen as small, insignificant, perhaps even primitive." She paused, looking around the room. "But we showed that size isn't everything. That innovation, cooperation, and the indomitable human spirit can overcome any obstacle. We've achieved much together this past year, but our journey is far from over." Chen's eyes sparkled with the promise of adventure. There are still mysteries to unravel, challenges to face, and wonders to discover, and we'll face them not as humans, or Zarkonians, or Arcturians, but as a united galaxy. The chamber erupted in applause. As Chen sat down, she caught Vexlor's eye. The Zarkonian gave her a respectful nod, a far cry from the contempt he had shown a year ago. As the Galactic Council dispersed, Chen returned to the window, gazing out at the stars. The tiny fleet that had been mocked had changed the course of galactic history. Humanity had proven itself on the cosmic stage, not through size or strength, but through intelligence, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to progress. The future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, and humanity, once alone in the cosmos, now stood at the forefront of a new age of galactic cooperation and discovery. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning.